I'm not particularly young to be having a fancy car. I've had enthusiast cars before. I've had a bunch of Volkswagens, a GTI and a GLI, and then an IS, Lexus IS 350, which I really like. And then my daily driver in our family is a LX 570, which enthusiasts will know is the 200 series Land Cruiser. In my heart, it's a Land Cruiser. But I haven't had a fairly hardcore driver's car in a long time. My GTI was kind of the most recent one, and it was time. So I'm at a point in life where this is not a trivial purchase, but I think I can afford it. And the 911 famously is a 4-seater, so it was partially considered. That guy was flying. It was partially considered a daily driver for me. I'll show you in the back. My toddler has a seat back there, which actually fits. And I grew up with Porsches a little bit. My dad didn't have a ton of money growing up until right when I got to the end of high school. He had me young, and kind of couldn't afford super fancy cars until I was already leaving for college, which was kind of a bummer, but I was happy for him. And he started out with an 87, I guess that would be a G-body, 968. Oh my god, I'm gonna get skewered in the comments. I actually know this number, but because I'm driving and I'm recording this, it's making me nervous. But an 87 911, manual, of course, whale tail, beautiful car. One of those things where when he bought it in 2001, he had no idea what it would become, and it ended up being just iconic. So it was a black exterior, tan interior, and I got to drive it once or twice. I rode in it with them, maybe half a dozen times, and it was a very visceral car. Obviously, they're different than the modern cars, and I think that's what this 996 represents to me, and the people who are buying them intentionally. My dad, after that, had a 93 993, which was incredible. Honestly, it was hunter green on the outside, tan interior on the inside. He built it out for driver's ed, and it was absolutely incredible. And again, being the optimist, we just kind of assumed the cars would always get better, and cars depreciate, so if he wanted to go back to the 993, he'd be able to get it. And I think by the time he realized what the 993 eventually became, they were a zillion dollars, and kind of rightfully so. But it's a shame because they're not being driven anymore, and I think that's the core of my message when I decided to record content about my car, get the car, record content about my car. My dad, just to finish off his story, he has a 997.2, I believe, which he's put a couple of motors in from abusing it on the track. He drives very hard, and I think his car hasn't been on the road in the past 2 years, so not exactly a happy story, kind of cautionary, if anything. So for myself, I've always had relatively more practical cars. I live in the city, I have one car, may need to park it on the street, yada yada. I need to go on vacation with it. Golf is a fantastic vehicle for city life. I would go back to a Golf if I needed to in a heartbeat, except for the fact that the maintenance and the service experience got to be terrible. So now, I'm at a point where I was like, okay, thinking more seriously about getting a Porsche, and ended up doing it fairly impulsively, honestly. Just some things kind of came together financially, and I went to go look at one that seemed oddly clean. It was listed as an automatic when the photo showed it was a manual. I think that's the only reason I had a shot at it. The other thing, it was at a dealer, and I was going to need to do financing, which is tough to do private party, and went down to go look at it, and it happened very kind of linearly. Made the decision that day, did not get a pre-purchase inspection, did look at it thoroughly, did drive it, was underneath it more than I was looking at anything else, really. And the service history appeared to be excellent. It spent most of its life in California, started down in LA, and then the past decade was in Monterey. And if you know anything about California, Monterey is an incredibly wealthy place. Having a 911 in Monterey is like having a Corolla in most places. So in my imagination, this thing was, baby driven, sparingly, in a small little town in perfectly humid, perfectly warm California weather. And that was it. So I talked to my dad, I talked to a number of friends about, pricing and that kind of thing. And I was really hoping to obviously get the best deal I could, but you gotta worry if you get too good of a deal. And it was probably going to need an IMS bearing, so there's no documentation of that being done. Although the engine bay looked incredible. It looks like somebody replaced many parts, including hoses and the airbox. But it could be just that it was detailed very well. But for 82,000 miles, it looked conspicuously clean. It still does. I've only had it a couple weeks now, and I think, I don't know. I may end up finding out it has critical issues. I don't want to talk about them too much because I don't want to invite the negativity. And if they happen, they happen. I emotionally and financially budgeted as if they will happen, and that's just what it is. So what are the good parts? Every time I see a modern 911, I'm filled with disappointment. And they're obviously very fast. Nobody questions that. But Teslas are fast. Priuses are fast. Being fast is not that interesting anymore, unfortunately. I wish it were, because I think people don't respect it. And the YouTube culture around cars has gotten incredibly dangerous. People who don't invest in becoming good drivers, are not mentored by other good drivers, are driving absolutely insane with extremely powerful cars on public roads. So you have, M3s with 500 horsepower routinely dodging through traffic, and I get the adrenaline rush, but it's really kind of like a dark signal for the future of cars, I think, because it invites a lot of regulation, and that's really sad. So the other part of it, obviously, is a more personal one, or an individual one, and it's my experience, which is I wanted something that felt like my dad's old air-cooled Porsches, and the 996 is the closest to that. And I don't know how to critique the modern cars without sounding mean, or without sounding perhaps bitter, like I couldn't afford them or something. In essence, I could afford a much more modern one, but when I think about the engineering and the packaging and the computers and how prevalent all-wheel drive is and all the systems that are in them, it starts to feel more like an Audi. I used to have an A3, and I'm kind of like I'm driving the child of an Audi, S4, and and a Volkswagen Bug or something when I look at a modern 911. Clearly, that's not a very generous statement, but I think it's I don't know. It's just a fundamentally different product. They're not wide in the good sense. They don't have big hips. They're wide in it's just a bigger car sense. And they're probably close to 4,000 pounds. Like, they've put on like 1,000 pounds since this car. Now, the good part about that is clearly safety. Safety is a serious thing, particularly in a sports car. Here we go. So, I'm all for safety. and a lot of that weight is just going to be there because of the safety. However, I don't know. There's just a lot of design choices that just feel really, really questionable. And I think a lot of people are confused about how to enter the modern brand because the vehicle they want looks more like a stripped down GT3 or something like that. But those vehicles are so absurdly, tightly managed on the inventory, where the inventory practices are, almost like a RICO case. It's like, feels like a racketeering scheme. And I don't know. It's just not cool. I think the biggest problem is it's not cool. And to get a proper driver's car that's a Porsche, you need to be talking about a $300,000 car, off the lot new. And that's before markup, and then that's if you can get an allocation. And that does add status for sure, and it does add market value for sure, but it's not cool anymore. It's like, I don't know, like every car is fast now. Like, it's not like growing up when, you heard the 0 to 60 number for, an F50 or something, and it was like, blew your mind. Everything is fast. So what are you going to do to bring people into the brand so that they have a good time with it and how, interesting experiences that they're passionate about and tell their friends about and want to put online and that kind of thing. And it is, I don't know. I can understand wanting to make money, but it's just not, I don't know. It's not doing it for me personally. So I don't really look at the 996 as a compromise. If anything, I look at it as the closest thing to being the air-cooled cars, because it is, and it has, it was bigger. Obviously, it's water-cooled, but it's more the DNA is there. The clutch feel, the throw. The last air-cooled I drove was that 993 I told you about, and it's just closer. It's just closer. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I've had a GTI, a Volkswagen GTI, and a GLI with a dual clutch transmission. So they're very fast, and I'm sure PDK is super sick and makes it super fast. But I'm not excited about it, and I think that's something that a lot of people are working through, and particularly at a time when driving more and more manual cars might be almost regulated out of existence. We might be in the sunsetting era. If you're a skier, there's a feeling in the ski world about skiing dying because of climate change and the economics of running a ski hill. And there's a few things like that. So, Porsche's kind of feel like that. And I still think, even though the 996 is ugly and it has very famous mechanical problems, it's worth preserving. And I plan to, turn this into an heirloom vehicle if I can. I'd like to keep it as long as possible. Forever long I do keep it. I would like to make it as good as I can. So OEM and OEM plus as much as possible. Not very unique in terms of a build plan. I'm not really looking at it as a build plan. It's a keep it on the road plan. It's a have a canyon carver that could also do a track day and still is a GT car. I just did our first road trip on Sunday with my wife and my son, and it was fantastic. It was a little anxious because it was our first time all in the car together. The car's only a week old, so I didn't know if I'd have mechanical issues. I was still feeling out the quirks. It's a tight, it's a little bit of a tight car, and with a baby you need a lot of gear. So I had no idea what would happen, and it ended up being the case that the issues we had were incredibly small. Most of the badness was my own anxiety, and the overall trip and the day turned out extremely well. So I'm hoping that's a like a sign of things to come. It's a good luck omen to start out. And I'm almost home, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But if you're considering a 996 and you have the budget to maintain it, definitely consider doing it. If you can get something air cooled, also consider that. And if you have a brand new something fancy, those are also sick, and I would still love to drive one. And you'll definitely beat me out on the canyons or whatever, but I really don't want for much more than this car is. And I think it's going to be a great way to spend time with family. We live in California. California offers some of the best roads in the world, and we just came off of one, and the more time I can justify being in this car, the more I'm going to, whether that's alone or with my son or with the whole family. So that's it. I hope your life is filled with whatever you're passionate about. This is a video about a car, but it's really just about whatever gets you excited. And also, I think critically, the duty that goes with stewardship and maintenance and taking care of things that are worth taking care of, and putting your time and money into things that are have that heirloom quality rather than things that are disposable. So as I get back into town here, I'm gonna